You know you're in for a ride when your summer plans include reenacting the entire oeuvre of Dracula, spying on a neighbor who never comes outside, and figuring out whether your teacher is a walking contradiction. That was life for Jean-Louis Finch, Scout to friends and enemies alike. Now imagine being a 9-year-old tomboy in the deep south of the 1930s. You've got skinned knees, no patience for frilly dresses, and an attitude that could fry fish. Add in a big brother, a wild summer friend named Dill who lies like it's an Olympic sport, and a town that thinks justice is a suggestion, and you've got yourself one heck of a childhood.
Wait a minute!
And Scout isn't here for any of the nonsense. She'll question your racism, your hypocrisy, your fashion choices, even your cooking. And in a town where every last person fits into a caste, noble Finches, thieving Yules, obedient blacks, Scout dares to ask, who made these rules anyway? Set in Maycomb, Alabama, a town where time drips slower than molasses, To Kill a Mockingbird introduces us to the Finch family. Atticus Finch, the wise, calm, morally unshakable father. Jem, the older brother with growing legs and growing ideals. And of course, Scout, the little girl with more curiosity than tact. Life in Maycomb seems as sleepy as the dog days of summer. That is, until Dill arrives. Every summer, Dill, a little boy with a big imagination, joins Scout and Jem in inventing wild games. But when they hear stories about the mysterious Boo Radley, the neighborhood ghost who allegedly eats cats and watches people sleep, they swap their toy swords for binoculars. Luring Boo out of the house becomes their collective mission. But Boo isn't the ghoul they imagined. Quietly, he begins leaving gifts for them in a knothole of a tree chewing gum, old pennies, a broken watch. Still, they never see him. Not yet. Meanwhile, Atticus, who's more interested in teaching moral courage than using the belt, is raising his kids with gentle firmness. When Aunt Alexandra frets over Scout's breeches and tomboy ways, Atticus barely bats an eye. He's raising thinkers, not debutantes. But their carefree adventures take a sharp turn when a black man, Tom Robinson, is accused of raping a white woman, Mayella Yule. The Yules, of course, are the town's certified trash pile. Mayella's father, Bob Yule, is known to be a liar and a drunk. And while everyone in Maycomb knows this, they still balk when Atticus is assigned to defend Tom Robinson, and decides to actually do it well. As Scout puts it, Atticus took it as a test of his moral aptitude. If he failed, he couldn't even tell her or Jem not to do something again. So, the town turns on him. Scout and Jem are called nigger lovers. Scout, unaware of the term's weight, gets into fights just hearing Atticus insulted. She asks him what it means, and he answers,
Nigger lover is just one of those terms that don't mean anything. Like snot-nose, it's hard to explain ignorant, trashy people use it when they think somebody's favoring Negroes over and above themselves.
And yet the hypocrisy of Maycomb doesn't stop there. In one of the book's most powerful scenes, Scout recounts a conversation involving her teacher, Miss Gates, after the Tom Robinson trial.
Miss Gates was going down the steps in front of us. I heard her say it's time somebody taught 'em a lesson. They were getting way above themselves. Jem, how can you hate Hitler so bad and then turn around and be ugly about folks right at home?
Before this, the same teacher had confidently declared,
Over here we don't believe in persecuting anybody. Persecution comes from people who are prejudiced. There are no better people in the world than the Jews, and why Hitler doesn't think so is a mystery to me.
Scout, only 9, could already see through the moral pretzel the adults were twisting themselves into. As the trial unfolds, the evidence clearly shows Tom's innocence. Mayella had been desperately lonely and had made advances on Tom, something her father caught her doing. In a bid to cover the shame, Bob Yule fabricated the rape charge, but none of that mattered. The jury, steeped in racial bias, found Tom guilty. Tom later attempts to escape prison and is shot dead. Despite losing the trial, Atticus earns a quiet, solemn respect from many in Maycomb. After all, he stood for what was right, even when standing meant standing alone. And then, Boo Radley steps into the light. One night, Bob Yule, seeking revenge, attacks Scout and Jem as they walk home from a school event. Boo Radley, the very recluse they once feared, saves them. He kills Bob in defense of the children. And finally, Scout meets the man who'd been silently watching over them all these years. Not a monster, but a quiet, gentle soul. In the end, the sheriff refuses to prosecute Boo. To do so, he says, would be like killing a mockingbird. Yes, the book is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And the mockingbird, it's a metaphor, maybe the strongest one in all of American literature.
Shoot all the blue jays you want if you can hit them, but remember it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. Mockingbirds don't do one thing but make music for us to enjoy. They don't do one thing but sing their hearts out for us. That's why it's a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Tom Robinson was a mockingbird, so was Boo Radley. Innocent souls destroyed or nearly destroyed by ignorance, cruelty, and fear. What makes this book so powerful is not just the subject of racism, but the way Harper Lee presents it through the eyes of a child. Scout is raw, inquisitive, and unfiltered. Through her, we witness not just the injustice of the courtroom, but the hypocrisy of the classroom, the church, and the dinner table. Scout doesn't just accept things as they are, she questions them. She pokes holes in adult logic and is baffled when no one seems to see what she sees. That is Lee's brilliance, putting truth in the mouth of a child. It reminds me of those other books, like Morrison's Beloved and Song of Solomon, that peel back the masks we wear. But To Kill a Mockingbird goes a step further by letting the untainted innocence of a young girl strip us bare. As I wrote, it slowly furls man's animalistic mask, a mask that creates a dissociation between thought and words. In Maycomb, people could praise democracy and condemn Hitler while persecuting their black neighbors. The book shows how we invent double standards, a dichotomy of thoughts, one for the thinker and his or her coterie, and the other for the others. Harper Lee gives us a mirror, and what we see in it is not always pretty. All right, so let's talk about some of the big themes running through To Kill a Mockingbird. First up, there's this tension between hypocrisy and morality. Miss Gates, for example, she goes on about hating Hitler, but then, well, she mirrors his behavior right at home. Atticus, on the other hand, he stands firm on a moral line that most folks just won't cross. Then, there's childhood and innocence. Scout's perspective, you know, it really lets us feel that tug of war between what's taught and what's actually right. Justice and injustice. Well, the courtroom drama is honestly the beating heart of the book, and that verdict, it's a flat-out condemnation of America's deep-seated racial inequality. And finally, fear of the other. Boo Radley, he becomes a symbol of how we fear what we just don't understand. That is, until compassion finally shows us the truth. Harper Lee was born in Monroeville, Alabama, way back in 1926. And you know, a whole lot of To Kill a Mockingbird is drawn from her own life. Her daddy was a lawyer. Her childhood friend Truman Capote is pretty widely believed to have inspired the character of Dill, and her hometown itself became the blueprint for Maycomb. The novel was published in 1960, went on to win the Pulitzer Prize, and has honestly become a cornerstone of American literature. Lee did publish a controversial sequel, Go Set a Watchman, in 2015. Though, truth be told, it was written before Mockingbird and shows us an older Scout. To Kill a Mockingbird is more than just a story. It's a real conversation starter. It challenges not only the American South, but, well, all of us. Why do we allow injustice when we know better? Why do we stay silent when the truth is staring us right in the face? Why do we kill the mockingbirds? In the end, it's Scout, tomboy, truth-teller, little rebel, who reminds us of what Atticus tried so hard to instill. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. And that's why this book, though it may be wrapped in the simplicity of a child's narrative, is honestly one of the most morally complex works of fiction ever written. This was Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, a true love story to justice, decency, and the children who remind us just how far we've strayed from both. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.